Hey everybody, Michael Pilhofer here, MSP Fitness. Wanted to use a video blog to just kind of talk about a recent experience with a new client, Maxwell, who came to me. You kind of read a little bit about his backstory. Power lifter historically, has some history with golf, so he understands kind of how complex types of sports can be broken down. Came to me pretty new in the realm of weightlifting, so obviously it took him through a pretty thorough assessment. Realized that, starting from the floor and all the various receiving positions were going to be pretty much on the money. He's got some mobility issues, but who doesn't? But in the end, we were kind of ready to do the lift. So you're going to see today a video that represents basically our second day, truly our only second day snatching. The previous session was introducing the lift, brand new from the floor, and I think we got up to about 75 pounds. So the goal with this session was to, again, start light. We started at 55, and then we worked up, ticking up very small 5-pound jumps, so it's almost imperceptible on the bar as we worked up and worked up and worked up. And I'm kind of an advocate of the idea of letting weight be the best teacher. It's very important to understand that obviously when you're learning the lifts, technique is important, positions are important. Maxwell is a thinker. That fun relationship between coach and client that's going to be different for every relationship is how to best communicate and work with that person. And I've already observed that Maxwell is going to be one of those perfectionists that wants to break it down into all the little puzzle pieces. And that is going to bite you in the butt when it comes to Olympic lifting, because you don't want to think of these things as parts. You want to see them as a whole. Now, mind you, I might teach it in parts. I'm kind of a top-down presenter of how to learn the lifts, but in general, I'm going to get to the lift and perform full lifts as soon as I can. I also want to be cautious with a person of an athlete of Maxwell's type, to be cautious of over cueing. He wants that, and I'm not going to give it to him. I want him to feel the lift, to experience the lift, and just have fun. So we're going to take a look at 3 lifts that show up where about 101, 105 pounds kind of showed up on the bar. And that was enough weight to start to expose some truths. And I love the idea that the weight can be the best teacher. This is a great example of that. So let's get to the video, and I'll kind of talk to you kind of where my head was at, the cues that I gave him, some of the observations that we can take away from the video, and from that, hopefully you can walk away with some good nuggets for yourself. So let's take a look. First lift, not too bad off the floor, a little bit forward, so we're going to focus on that today as kind of our main focal point for the cueing pieces. Second part kind of takes my cue a bit overboard and ends up kind of overdoing it, throwing the bar too far back, which actually isn't a horrible thing. We'll discuss that. And the third one kind of puts it pretty much on the money in the middle here. So let's break them down piece by piece. If we talk about some big puzzle pieces, these lifts, you can go down in the weeds so deep, focusing on so many things. The biggest challenge for any coach is going to be that lowest hanging fruit. What's going to be the 1 or 2 little nuggets that, again, can help the athlete have fun and play with the lifts without just paralyzing them and making them just kind of get into that crazy overthinking world. So as we look slowly off the floor, overall start position is pretty good. You're going to see kind of some big things, shoulders slightly ahead of the bar, shins are full forward, head and eyes up on the horizon just slightly. We can work on this upper back position just a little bit. Like I said, there's some mobility issues in play, but overall I can live with that. And then as he comes up off the floor, pretty much keeps it in line. It punches out a little bit, but 2 things that we're going to focus on right out of the gate is if we drew an imaginary line between hip and shoulder and kind of keep that line of action, when he pulls off of the floor, you're going to see that his hips actually kind of like win the race of getting a little bit high early. So now if we take a look at that chest angle, we've kind of lost the chest. We've created a deeper angle for him to make up for, which in effect will oftentimes mean that he has to swing his shoulders back too far and generally punches the bars out in front as his hips move a little more horizontally than vertically. The other piece we're going to talk about is footwork. You're going to see that as he comes over the kneecap, if we look at his toes, as he comes over the kneecap, do you see how his toes kind of lift up? This means that essentially his weight has shifted almost too far into his heels. Actually, it has shifted too far into his heels, kind of peeling his toes off of the floor. And with any sort of kind of extreme pendulum swing, it's going to come back crashing the other way. So as he gets into this pocket position, you're going to see before he even gets to that kind of neutral upright torso pocket position, we're going to start to lose our heels, which means his weight has transferred pretty much all the way exclusively to the balls of his feet. This is going to create that horizontal drive of the hips, punching the bar out in front, and in effect now putting the bar or the mass of the bar way out away where his area of base is. There's going to be no way to kind of counteract that. Now the bar is light enough where he can kind of manipulate it, but even when he does try to do the best he can, when he catches it, you'll see that that bar now sits over in front of his toes. That's way out in front. If that bar was much heavier than that, it's gone, it's lost. But because it's light enough, this is actually a pretty good demonstration, because you can see that what he has to do to actually survive is that bar has to roll backwards. Check it out, see? Then he drives up, that bar sits over his midfoot to heels, and then he can stand. So if we look into the second lift, and here's a trick. Sometimes misses can be actually a positive thing. Many times as we influence the bar path by talking about chest position, by talking about footwork or whatever cue we're working on, the bar path and where it's going to start to where it's going to go might change. So there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect between where the brain thinks the bar is going to be, or where it was, should I say, and where it's going to end up. So here's a great example of that. As he comes off of the floor, we're still going to kind of focus on this chest up position as he breaks the floor. Keeps his chest a little bit taller, still loses it a little bit, but overall a little better. Stays flatter a little bit longer, stills get to toes, but you'll see more elevation, and this is the key. He gets back much better. So you can see just as he finishes contact with the floor, his shoulders, hips are behind his heels, and that bar is in relatively close. So as he punches through, yeah, the bar comes out a little bit, but it's not nearly as far out as it was. And with that, the bar ends up coming around him, and he wasn't expecting it, so that's why he has to kind of run back and catch it. In this third attempt, we sort of put those two pieces together a little bit better. He's able to maintain his chest position off of the floor a little bit better. He's able to maintain a more even foot pressure between his big toe, his pinky, and his heel. We call it tripod foot in here. And then from that is able to keep the bar in close, elevate the bar while still getting back, keeping that bar from kicking out too far, and then when he does come through to finish, you'll see that it lands nicely over his midfoot. So with that, we moved up to 110, we moved to 115, and we closed the day at 120. So here's his lift at 120. And again, for a 155-pound athlete for day 2 of ever snatching from the floor fully, I'll take that any day of the week. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that opportunity to kind of get inside of my head and kind of see it from a coach's view standpoint. You know, if you're interested in the sport of weightlifting, if you're new to the sport or have been in it for a while and want to take your game to that next level, contact us at mspfitness.com. If you've got any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.